We are back, you guys, with another poll video. You might have looked at the thumbnail and you're like, what the hell is going on here? The Thousand Sunny doing a Biden blast? Well, that is right, you guys, because these polls, well, at least the first two, they are focused on the ships that the Straw Hats sailed on. So, on to the first poll. We're going to cut straight to the chase. I asked a month ago, see, I'm revisiting old polls here. I asked if we would ever see another Klabautermann. So this seems like it came out of nowhere, but you gotta remember, this right here was a major plot point in Skypiea, as well as Water 7. The Going Merry came to life. That ship came to life in the form of a little child, and it fixed itself up, and it said goodbye to the Straw Hats. That ship sailed all the way from Water 7 to Ina's lobby to pick them up. And I'm not gonna lie, back when Water 7 was airing, I was a child. And I remember when the Going Merry started talking, and when the Straw Hats were wondering how the ship got there, I teared up. You might be saying, aw, Sai, that's adorable. A little Asian kid crying, and not because they're in a Xi'an factory? That's amazing. No, guys. It was not wholesome. I was crying because I was scared. Well, not crying. I was tearing up. I was like, oh God, my arm hair was standing up. My back was shivering. My teeth were clanking. Yeah, I don't like ghosts. Even now as an adult, I still don't like the idea of ghosts. So seeing the Going Merry manifest in this way never really sat right with me, which I think is where my Merry disdain comes from. But that aside, I asked everybody, would we ever see another Klabautermann? Potentially, one for the Thousand Sunny, maybe one for Pluton, Uranus, the Noah's Ark. Will we see another one? 69, great number, 69% of people, what's up, Kuro? Looks like my cat wanted to join in on this conversation because he's also a Klabautermann. 69% of people said, yes, sir, we will see another one of these little guys by the end of the story. Whereas 31% say no. And do you like the image I picked out here? Very indicative of how I felt when the Going Merry came to life. So I personally lean towards yes. I think we will see another Klabautermann. And that's mainly because so far, if you were to go back and count it month by month, we have spent more time with the Thousand Sunny than we have with the Going Merry. Not saying time is like a big essence of the conversation here, but because we spent so much more time with the Thousand Sunny, I think we also poured in that much more love into it. So I would not be shocked if one day the Thousand Sunny gets injured, or one day the Straw Hats need to get picked up. I would not be shocked if the Thousand Sunny shows up and saved their asses. So as far as the Klabautermann idea goes, I do feel like Oda kind of floated this around during Film Red. I don't know if you guys watched Film Red or not, but in that movie, Uta has the power to bring people into the song world. Very abstract. It was really wacky, really wild. And in the song world, Uta actually brought the Thousand Sunny to life. And it took on this Pokemon-ass form. And I saw that, and while a lot of people were like, oh, that's cool, that's a nice one-off thing, I think Oda was genuinely testing this out. I think this was his way of floating the Thousand Sunny idea amongst the general public to see if people would latch onto it. Unfortunately, I don't think it did. Coming out of Film Red, I don't think anybody was really talking about the Thousand Sunny coming to life, but I do think that if it were to get a Klabautermann, it would look like that. So, yes, I do think we will see another one for the Thousand Sunny. Maybe Oda will change up the design a little bit as time goes on, but I do think he was floating the idea with that right there. And then, of course, it doesn't have to be Thousand Sunny related. We could totally get this for Pluton, for Uranus, or maybe even with Noah's Ark, because those are ships that should have been around for about the past 900 years. I would be shocked if a Klabautermann does not exist amongst at least one of those ancient weapons. So yeah, that is my personal opinion. I wouldn't mind if we didn't see one though. Going to the 31% that say no, we're not going to see one, I would not mind this. I'm not a big advocate for Klabautermanns. So yeah, that's my personal opinion there. So now on to the comment section, because we do have to read through these. The top comment, of course, says we might see Pluton's Klabautermann, and I think so too. I just mentioned that a minute ago. And the thing about seeing an ancient weapons Klabautermann is that they could give us lore on how they were made, who the original wielders of those ancient weapons were, maybe even a little bit about Joy Boy, right? So I do think we could get a lot out of a Pluton Klabautermann. And I do refer back to a line that Shinobu mentioned back during Wano. After we beat Kaido and we were resting up, the Straw Hats were talking about Pluton. Robin said, "Hey Luffy, Pluton is in ancient Wano. Do you want to go see it or get it?" Luffy said no. And in the midst of that conversation, Shinobu pops up and she says, "Oh, did I hear somebody say that mature women are ancient weapons?" And of course, right? Oda gag, Shinobu's been saying stuff like that all arc, but I did, have some alarms blaring saying, wait, is there a chance that Pluton is alive to some extent? Whether Pluton is a living ship or whether it is a ship with a Klabautermann that is a mature woman, I think that might have been a hint right there. So now, the second comment says, "I think most things Oda introduced in the story will come back until the end of the manga. I bet Pluton has a Klabautermann." Okay, so it looks like this is going to be the main talking point right here. Just the fact or theory that the ancient weapons will have one of these small bastards aboard it. Frankie's bounty poster is foreshadowing something. One Piece theorist back in 2022. Hey. I have a Frankie video. I did the exact same thing, and I still do that, right? And that is why when we came into Elbaf, I am still an advocate that the Thousand Sunny will either get destroyed or upgraded because of Frankie's bounty poster. These bounty posters, man, they do foreshadow things. Go back to Sanji's bounty poster. It foreshadowed Duval. It foreshadowed him being a prince. It's there. So Frankie's bounty poster not being of him anymore, but instead of the Thousand Sunny, I think that means something. And then another thing we have to keep in mind, speaking of Frankie, is that when Oda, he did this for all the Straw Hats, mind you, but Oda went down and he listed good timelines and bad timelines 50 years later and 70 years later. And for Frankie's bad timeline, he became a ship. He went from a Gundam to an actual ship, like a living ship. So I think this is foreshadowing something 100%. Of course, when you put it like this back in 2022, it makes it sound a little bit ridiculous because it's now 2025, but that's just how things happen, man. The years just fly by. It doesn't even feel that long ago, to be honest. Probably, we'll see another Klabautermann. Given how much the Straw Hats adore the Thousand Sunny, it feels just right that their ship could develop its own spirit, especially since it'd be such a powerful, emotional moment, pure classic Oda. Yeah, I do wonder. If a Thousand Sunny Klabautermann pops up, will I still be stricken with fear? Or have I aged and matured since then, I wonder. As much as I would love to see it again, I feel like that's something Oda might have forgotten about. I don't think so. The reason I say I don't think so is because of the mural, right? A lot of people think that Oda forgot about things back in Skypiea, but I don't think that's the case. Right? In that mural, we literally see, I don't think it is like the one-to-one Arc Maxim, but we do see a ship that looks like the Arc Maxim there, right? And that's a Skypiea callback. And yeah, I just feel like the Klabautermann is such a big thing that Oda would not leave behind, especially since most recently we have Davy back fights being reintroduced. Davy Jones, a one-liner all the way back in like chapter 300, got reintroduced 900 chapters later. So yeah, with that being said, I do not think Oda has forgotten about it. It could be something Oda wants to forget about, but I feel like he's going to bring it in. I do. I'm sure the Sunny has one by now. It might play a role in Laugh Tale. I like to see the Klabautermann of the Oro Jackson waiting for the right person in vicinity of Laugh Tale or even on it, obeying Roger's last command. That'd be kind of cool. This has been a really big question throughout the whole series. Well, not throughout the whole series, but ever since we heard about it. But people have been wondering, where is the Oro Jackson today? The former Pirate King ship, surely it's not just destroyed or abandoned. Somebody has to have it. Personally, I always put my money on Scopper, right? Because I don't think we're going to meet the other members of the crew, right? I don't think we're going to meet Jackson, Banner, Eric. I doubt we're actually going to meet Sunbell or... I'm trying to think about like the other names. Millet Pine is another member of the Roger Pirates. I don't think we're ever going to meet them, and I don't think that they would have the Oro Jackson. I think it would either go to Rayleigh or Scopper, And for Scopper, at least, I think it would be cool if we had like the whole ship in a bottle thing from Pirates of the Caribbean here in Elbaf. Like maybe that's what they did with the Oro Jackson, right? The Giants, they simply took the Oro Jackson, put it in display case, and called it a day to respect the former Pirate King. But of course, I'm not too sure if that's the case. That's just my personal headcanon theory. But yeah. Outside of that, I do like this idea that the Oro Jackson is waiting for somebody. Maybe the Oro Jackson and the egg are still hanging out. Because we don't know if that egg actually hatched, right? The egg on Roger's ship, we all think it hatched, but for all we know, it could still be there. It could still be there. Do we know what happened to Roger's ship? I can't remember, but if not, I think it will be at Laugh-Tale, and the crew member that will be at that point of the journey will be the Klabautermann of the ship. Is this the same person? Look at this. It's kind of like how up here, 2 comments back-to-back, Pluton Klabautermann, and then over here, it's like, hey, Oro Jackson Klabautermann, wow. We're all mind-roping on this one. I also don't think that'll be the end of the story. I think it'll be the start of the last arc, or knowing Oda, the start of the true last saga. That could be it. Oda did say, granted, this was decades ago, but he said that when they find the One Piece, the story will end. So, of course, when we hit that One Piece, I think that is when he's going to start wrapping things up. It's weird to think about, right? In your guys' opinion, do you think we're going to defeat Blackbeard and Emu first, or will Luffy obtain the One Piece first? That's kind of something I have debated for a long time. Personally, I think we'll beat Emu and then Blackbeard and then get the One Piece. But, you know, I do like the other options out there. I would love to see the Klabautermann on one of the last shots. Just sailing with the Sunny on top of the mast. I would absolutely love this. I'd be horrified. A ship is sailing by itself? No! Who is that up there? A little kid? A Sunny? That's back when Oda was in his bag, only if Oda remembers. There's no need for one. Frankie can handle the ship's repairs himself, so if there is one later, it won't be for the Thousand Sunny. To be fair, it's not about just repairing the ship. Like, maybe the ship needs to pick up the Straw Hats. Maybe the Thousand Sunny was tampered with by an enemy team. Kind of like how back in Wano, they tried to destroy the Thousand Sunny, the Beast Pirates did, but it didn't work, right? Imagine somebody tries to do that in the future, somebody competent, and they just, like, push it aside. Maybe they try to break something, and then Frankie, of course, is doing something else, and the Thousand Sunny repairs itself and then brings itself over. I think we could build a scenario where, you know, Frankie is just MIA, or we need the Sunny now, and Frankie doesn't have the time to fix it. All right, so now last comment. It would be such a deep cut and funny if we saw the kid pirate ship Klabautermann severely messed up and traumatized somewhere. You say somewhere. It would be here in Elbaf. Like, imagine this, bro. We go to the shores of Elbaf, and we see a little kid cut in half. You know, cut in half because Dorian Brogy effed it up. And it's Kid's ship. And because the ship was given to Kid by his, I think, dead girlfriend or former girlfriend or just something childhood friend, that would be awful. Hey, it would be funny, though. Don't get me wrong. It'd be funny. But it would be awful, too. I'd feel so bad for a kid. I already do. Last comment, actually. I'm going to read this one, last one. I would like to see one again, maybe in conjunction with the original Galley Raw Giant Shipwrights. You know, to be fair, if there was a group out there who knew all about Klabautermanns, how to talk to them without the ship being severely damaged, I think it would be the Galley Raw Giants. I think these guys would know everything about it, which I think could be pretty cool. Which, you know what? Going back to it, Galley Law Iceberg was the one who told us about Klabautermanns, or was it Frankie? It's one or the other. I haven't finished Water 7 again yet. I'm still like halfway through it. But yeah, one of them told us about it, so I think it would make sense if the original Galley Raw also gave us more lore. So now, on to the next poll. This one is more of an opinion piece, but I ask, which Straw Hat ship is your favorite? The Going Merry, the Thousand Sunny, or neither? I'm gonna be honest, guys. I don't like either one. I never really enjoyed the Going Merry, and I still don't super enjoy the Thousand Sunny. I don't hate them. Don't get me wrong. You know, I like the ships for what they are. I think they're iconic. Of course, when I see these ships, I think about the Straw Hats. But are they my favorite designs? No, not by a long shot. I went through and I looked at every ship in the series, And I do think the Going Merry and Thousand Sunny would be somewhere in the middle. Not near the top, not near the bottom, just somewhere in the middle. So yeah, I think I would pick neither. I am part of the 9%. So right here, it looks like the Thousand Sunny is winning by a long shot, 64%, and then the Going Merry only has 27. I will admit, one thing I really like about the Thousand Sunny is the grass, which sounds weird, but I love the grass in the courtyard, or the grass on the main port. I think that's just a lot of fun. It's very unique as well. And now, as far as the Going Merry, if I had to give one compliment to it, I really enjoy the bushes in the back. I believe that's Belmare's tangerine trees that Nami planted back there. I love those things. I think it just gives it so much character. And now that I'm done giving compliments, I can go back to feeling very mid about them. So going down the comment section, like I said, these are all opinions. Like, there's no right or wrong answer per se. You can like one, you can like the other. Like, this doesn't change anything. This is really just random, right? It's because, you know, like I said, I'm in Water 7, and they're having the whole tiff about the Going Merry, and then, of course, they later get the Thousand Sunny. And I do think the Thousand Sunny is a really good upgrade. I think they needed it. I mean, first up, it's a way bigger ship. It has the Gao Cannon. It has the Kude Burst. It has the docking system, which we don't really use anymore. I think the Thousand Sunny is a much needed upgrade. And hell, I would go as far to say that we need another upgrade. Because, brother, whenever we are partying on the Thousand Sunny at the end of arcs, we're filling that up. You know, dude, you can barely fit everybody in the same panel or even in the courtyard at the same time. So yeah, I think we do need just to upgrade the Thousand Sunny, or maybe get like the 2000 Sunny in here. But yeah, that's my personal thoughts on that. So this comment says, I love both the Going Merry and the Thousand Sunny because each symbolize different stages of the Straw Hats' journey. The Merry was full of heart, carrying them through their early struggles and feelings almost alive, the Klabautermann, in its bond with the crew. The Sunny, on the other hand, shows their growth, stronger, more advanced, and built to carry their dreams even further. Yes. One thing about the Thousand Sunny, by the way, the reason why I don't think we will get a 2000 Sunny is simply because of the symbolism of it. You know, this guy brings up a really good point. But the Thousand Sunny, right? It's the sun, you know, like, that is Luffy's whole thing. Luffy is the sun god. I can't imagine getting another ship and changing the figurehead, right? I feel like that Thousand Sunny just fits Luffy so well. And then plus the whole thing about the 1000, right? The 900-year void, the void century, brother. We're hitting the 1000th century with this. We're bringing the sun up. Like, I just feel like there's so much symbolism and meaning behind the Thousand Sunny that we cannot get rid of it. So that's why instead I do lean towards an upgrade rather than a brand new ship. And then, of course, the Thousand Sunny is tied to Franky's dream. Franky built a ship, and the reason why he wanted to set sail was because he wanted to take this ship around the entire world. So if the Thousand Sunny breaks, I feel like that would be a big narrative blow on multiple fronts. Not like that's bad, right? I think narrative blows are good, because then we'd have to reanalyze a lot of things, and characters would have to get brand new goals or deal with that loss. But overall, I think we will keep the Thousand Sunny. So this comment says, Merry had more aura than the Sunny. Literal ghost fairies spawned from the Merry and saved the crew. Auto-steering ship goated, yeah. And then plus, like, whenever something bad happens, it would rain and then the Merry would have, like, a little tear running down his cheek. That was also really scary. The Merry felt more like another member of the crew. The Sunny just feels like another boat to me. I'd feel bad for Franky if it sank, but not really for the ship itself. Yeah, no, this is me. Yeah, I'd feel bad for Franky, but not really about the ship. Whereas the Merry's funeral was a top 3 saddest moment in the story for me. Going Merry felt cozy. Wow, a lot of these comments about the Merry, huh? The Merry hype, dude, it's everywhere. The Going Merry is definitely sentimental, but the Thousand Sunny suits the Straw Hats better. Someone said, dying takes away aura. Yeah, if we had the Going Merry for a little bit longer, or if the Going Merry simply retired and didn't get burned, maybe it would have more votes in the polls. That's funny. My guess is before the final war, or maybe even right after Elbaf, assuming Loki joins, they're going to have major upgrades to the Sunny to the point where it's a completely different ship. Sunny over Merry is crazy. Both designs are meh, but unlike the Sunny, Merry still thrived without any advanced modifications. The adventure-islands the crew went on with the Merry were the most memorable moments in One Piece. Sky Island, Ace and Bonchan only set foot on the Merry. Klabautermann are as rare as black swords. Autopilot, we literally got a farewell message. That is true. A scary farewell message, mind you. The Barrel. The barrel? Oh, the barrel scene on the Going Merry. I was like, the barrel? Wait, what is he talking about? When he said barrel, the first thing that popped in my mind was Luffy in the barrel in the whirlpool at the beginning of episode 1. One guy commented Zoro and Sanji. Huh? Huh? Zoro and Sanji? How do they fit in here? Sunny for me, the Going Merry was great, and sad to see it go, but I think the Merry's plotline is the only reason people would vote for it. Not for me. Just because it died does not mean that I have to choose it over the Sunny. Also, I do have to add this in here. When I say I like neither, it's not because of the plot. No, I'm looking strictly at design. And I'm saying this because I can see people getting pretty upset when I say that I don't like either one, but just know it's not plot related. It's purely off of a design standpoint. Just want to reiterate that. My favorite will be the third ship they eventually get. The Thousand Sunny ain't lasting till the end of One Piece. Yeah, and the thing is too, is that when we first got the Thousand Sunny, this was damn near indestructible, right? When we first heard about Atomwood, it was like, holy crap, nobody can blow it up. That's not true. You know, Big Mom jumped aboard the Thousand Sunny and literally ripped it apart with their bare hands while she was in a hunger pang. You know, if a competent swordsman were to attack the Thousand Sunny, it would break. And then hell, right? Like Garp's giant cannonball, that would have sunk the Thousand Sunny as well. Atomwood can only do so much, but now that we're going against top tiers, right? Like if Shanks, for example, were to use a Kamusari, yeah, I don't think that Thousand Sunny is lasting. Or if Dorian Brogy used a Hakaku sovereignty against the Thousand Sunny like Kids Punk Victoria, yeah, I think the Thousand Sunny is done. So we do have to start protecting the Thousand Sunny more and more because it is, liable to damage. I mean, hell, even going back to Egghead Island, when Kaku was going up to destroy the Thousand Sunny, I truly think if Zoro did not block that attack, the Thousand Sunny, I don't think it'd be cut in half, but I think it would be damaged, right? So now, on to the next poll. We're taking a crazy leap away from this. And now I'm asking the question, will Kuzan betray Blackbeard? 90%. Dude, look, 10,000 votes. 90% said yes. And I'm one of them. I do think that Kuzan will betray Blackbeard. I feel like it's fairly obvious, which, going through the comment section here in a second, I have seen some people say that it's so obvious it feels like it won't happen, which I do think is kind of fair. It's a very on-the-nose plot point. But yeah, as far as like Kuzan being a part of Blackbeard's crew, it could be that he's undercover for Dragon, or maybe even for Akainu. Another way to look at it is that he is an independent agent and he's seeking his own justice, which I think he kind of explained already, right? He's still him, as he said to Smoker, but he's just a part of Blackbeard's gang. So I'm assuming if Blackbeard ever gets close to killing somebody, or if Blackbeard ever gets close to obtaining the One Piece, I could 100% see him pulling a Gin from Bleach. 1,000%. Just backstab, just... Or like a Zetsu from Naruto, just, right? I can see Kuzan being that guy. Some people might say that's very underhanded, but, Kuzan, at the end of the day, he joined the Marines, right? He does believe in some sort of justice, so I doubt he would just let a villain like Blackbeard reign supreme over the entire world. I feel like he is just biding his time until he can actually make his own move. And then plus, even back when he joined Blackbeard, he did explain that he has a different goal in mind, right? Blackbeard is simply a house for Kuzan right now. And while he's there, Kuzan is helping Blackbeard. So I do personally think that Oda has been setting up Kuzan's betrayal from the very beginning. I still do not think he's a bad guy. Even with the Garp stuff in context, I don't think he's evil, right? Kuzan froze Garp. He didn't kill Garp. He kind of talked about Garp like he would kill him, but, that's neither here nor there. So now, on to the comments. The top one says, the real plot twist would be if Kuzan is actually invested. Okay, this would be shocking. This would be a plot twist. Imagine that, right? Like, I almost can't think about it, but, like, Kuzan going up to Luffy or Akainu or Dragon or Kobe, and he says, Teacher's my captain. I will die for Teach. I can't, dude. There's no way. There's no freaking way. But that would be a plot twist. That would catch everybody off guard. That would be a hell of a week. He will but Blackbeard will probably have figured it out, and whatever Kuzan's plan was will end up backfiring. Yes, just like Bleach again, right? I think Blackbeard knows that he invited a lion into the den. I do not think Blackbeard is stupid. He probably knows what happened with Rox's crew, his father's crew, and how they all kind of betrayed him or didn't work well together. I bet Blackbeard is betting that some of his crewmates might do the exact same. Kuzan being the most likely candidate, right? You know, the others are pirates, you know, you can kind of predict them already. And then for Kuzan, it might as well be stapled on his forehead that he's a Marine through and through. What's up, Sai? Hey, what's up, man? What's up, Neil? I believe Kuzan will betray Blackbeard not for the Marines, but his own agenda. I wouldn't be upset if it was for the Marines, though. I just think Kuzan has fully resolved himself to being a pirate, yeah. I think it could be for the Marines. I think it could be for the Revs. It could be for himself. As long as he isn't a Blackbeard lackey through and through, yeah, we're all in the same boat. We're all in the same boat. Kuzan's whole deal is lazy justice, meaning he does what he thinks is right, not what he's told. He's already shown he'll go against the grain, like when he let Robin escape. It just feels like Kuzan is either spying on Blackbeard or planning on pulling the ultimate double cross at the perfect moment. There's no way a guy like Kuzan truly respects a chaotic pirate like Blackbeard. Yeah, that could be it. Could y'all imagine if he's actually a ride or die for Blackbeard? That would be some crazy work. Yeah, if this was the case, we're going to have to rethink the Blackbeard matchups, right? Because right now, a lot of people have Luffy versus Blackbeard. We got Zoro versus Shiryu. We have maybe Katarina Devon versus Nami. Usopp versus Van Augur. And it's like, bro, who's fighting Aokiji? Would it be Sanji? Would it be Sanji? I don't know, dude. I feel like by the end of story, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, they're going to be well above Admiral level, in my opinion. Or at least, you know, that's my headcanon. So, I mean, I guess we could fight him, but what are we saying about Shiryu at that point? You know, like, I don't know, man. I feel like it'd be so lopsided. Because right now, if you include Aokiji as a true Blackbeard pirate, he'd be the second strongest on the crew behind Blackbeard. Like, that is such a gap between Aokiji and then Shiryu of the Rain. So I just don't know, man. I don't know. This one says, I think Kuzan will be found out by Blackbeard and escape without being killed. Then, he might take a caribou roll to lore dump the Straw Hats on what's going on at Hachinosu, Garp and Pudding. I also think the caribou will more or less do the same thing, causing both forces to collide at Hachinosu in an all-time Marineford-like fight. Or at least I hope. Fingers crossed. Hopefully, that's not all for his character, though, because I don't want him to just be a plot device. That is fair. You know, I do just go back to the whole line about Kuzan saying that he has not changed to Smoker despite being a part of the Blackbeard Pirates. You know, I think he is working towards an angle like this. Just like, hey guys, heads up, y'all. You know, send a message to Akainu. Send a message to Mugiwara. Right? Blackbeard's on the move. And then something somebody brought up earlier is that he could be a revolutionary spy because when Blackbeard was going to pick up Burgess at Baltigo, which was Dragon's base, Dragon managed to escape Baltigo without fighting Blackbeard and his crew. How is that possible? How did Dragon time his escape perfectly? Is Dragon just the master of escape? Or did he have an inside agent looking out for him? Which we could even argue, right? Like I said, Kuzan doesn't even have to be an agent for Dragon. He could just be a guy looking out for the world. This one says, I don't know, but Oda is going to cook something fabulous for us. Not gonna lie, I'd really like if he didn't, just because everyone is expecting him to. Yeah, see, this is it too, right? Like, look at this. 9,000 people out of 10,000 believe that he will betray Blackbeard. Like, it's so obvious. Could be Sanji's end of story matchup. And maybe Loki joins as his right hand and is Zoro's end of story matchup. That'd be interesting. Sanji versus Aokiji and then Zoro versus Loki. Okay. I like this, actually. I don't think Loki would join Blackbeard. I see why he would. I don't think he will. But if he does, this would be cool. Oda has been on this streak of writing betrayal storylines in basically every faction since Dressrosa. At this point, I want Kuzan to not to be a traitor despite the obvious foreshadowing and setup, since it would be a subversion of that trend. I agree. You know, like, I don't mind if he's a ride or die, I just can't see it. But I do like how unique that would be, right? Kuzan, former admiral, now a Blackbeard ride or die. A Blackbeard's my captain, leave him alone kind of guy. That would be nuts. Or like maybe Kuzan, you know, he sees that Blackbeard's about to get shot or KO'd, and then we get an ace scene where Kuzan just spreads his arms out saying, Blackbeard, my master, go on and live for me. Like that would, whew, Now, for the last poll of the day, I asked a very simple question again, but will we get the, quote, full God Valley in this flashback? And when I say full, I mean so full that we're probably not going to tackle it again. Where I'm talking about we see the start of God Valley, we see the middle of God Valley, and we see the end of God Valley. That is what I mean by full. 47% say yes, we will see it all. 44% say no, we're saving it for another flashback. And 9% say never, we are never seeing the full God Valley in the story. So, I'll break all of these down real quick. As far as yes goes, of course, that means we will see it in the Loki and Herald flashback, which I kind of feel like we're getting right now. Right, we got the whole Shaka reveal as the treasure of Hachinosu. I feel like we are leading up to God Valley. That's my own personal take. As far as no, we could be saving this for a Scopper flashback. Maybe Scopper, after Elbaf, weighs in and he says, hey guys, since Loki didn't tell you about God Valley, let me tell you what really happened. Perhaps, on the other hand, we could get this from Garling. You know, Garling was a major player there. Garling could say, hey Shanks, hey Mugiwara, let me tell you what happened that day to your dear Pirate King and Roxy Zabek. Or maybe, I put a picture of Blackbeard here, it could be via Blackbeard, because that's where his daddy died, right? Blackbeard probably has no idea what really went down, but guess what? Blackbeard has somebody who was there and witnessed everything firsthand. He has Garp in his possession, and not just Garp, but he has Pudding. If Garp does not talk willingly, all you have to do is beat Pudding up a little bit, give her a black eye, and then say, Pudding, activate your powers on this old man. And then she whips out Garp's memories, and then boom, there you go, God Valley. So yes, I think these are all plausible. Oh yeah, as far as Never goes, I didn't explain Never yet. This could be that Oda is going to just drop it in an SBS, or he will just gloss over it and we just will never see it. Or we could even just get a movie about God Valley, and that is why Oda skips through it. Personally, I feel like we will get it though. As far as whether it's in this flashback or with Blackbeard, personal headcanon, I think that maybe Blackbeard is getting this flashback at the same time Luffy and the gang are. So what I mean by that is that maybe we get the full God Valley in the next couple of chapters. And then we cut back to Luffy, and Luffy says something like, oh, what a cool fight. My grandpa was there. Roger was there. That's awesome. And then Oda gives us a couple more pages, and we see Blackbeard, and Blackbeard is doing the Pudding memory extraction on Garp, and Blackbeard also gets that flashback at the same time. So we kind of mix these two together. It catches Luffy up to speed, and it catches Blackbeard up to speed in tandem. I think that'd be great, right? Like imagine that. Like imagine Luffy, right? Luffy says, wow, God Valley was so amazing. Like that sounds like such an epic tale. I wish I was there. And then on Blackbeard's end, Blackbeard hates it. Kind of like the cherry pie scene where I think Luffy hated the cherry pie and then Blackbeard loved it. And then Luffy loved the steak and then Blackbeard hated the steak. It could be like that. Luffy loves the flashback, but Blackbeard hates it because his dad died. I think that'd be really cool. So now, on to the comments. They say, even if we get a lot of it, some important nuance will probably be saved until a later date. That could be possible, right? Because we will still meet more players who were there, like Garling, for example, and maybe even more of the Gorsei. Loving flashback piece right now. Me too, brother. Personally, I think it'll be another small window, just with rocks in it instead of a shadow. This flashback seems to be veering back into Herald's story with the immediate narrative value of rocks, and this flashback is still being used to flesh out Loki and Herald's stories. I doubt we get big God Valley flashbacks that overshadow them. I think we got perfect context for seeing this much rocks, and we will get another God Valley blue ball moment as the story switches to Herald and his last years and death. I could see this. I don't think this is a bad point to make. I have seen this take a couple of times that we are veering more towards Harold and Loki's storyline, which I don't think would be bad, right? You know, saving this for later, not a bad idea, you know, to me at least. You know, I don't know how you guys view One Piece, but whenever we get a break week or whenever Oda drags something out, I'm like, hey, that's another week we have One Piece, right? Because one day, morbid, well, not morbid, but, you know, pessimistic, but one day One Piece will be over. So if Oda stalls out for another week, if Oda does just give this flashback to us later and he extends the series, good for us, man. That's good for us. Bad for Oda, though, right? Oda, he's already 50 years old. He's as old as Gecko Moria. So maybe he wouldn't want that, but we'll see. We'll see. I'd go with saving it for another flashback. Oda loves to give us pieces of the puzzle instead of the whole thing right away. We'll probably get some cool reveals about God Valley now, but not everything, since it's such a huge event. He's for sure saving the biggest stuff for later in the story. I feel like Oda has spent the last 4 chapters setting it up, brother. It would be insane if we do not see most of it soon. Though, I'm sure we'll get back to it eventually to learn more. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a good 80% of it, and I feel the exact same way, brother. I feel like if we do cut away, it'll just be, you know, like they mentioned earlier, it'll be like the nuanced points. It'll be like the small, big outcomes, but I think we will get more than what we got with Kuma. We will only get Loki and Harold's reaction to it. This could be the case. To be fair, though, I have seen theories that maybe Loki or Harold was at God Valley. Like, maybe they snuck aboard a ship. Maybe their plan was to ambush Rocks there if Harold takes up Marcus Mars's proposition. You know, because until this point in time, we had no clue that Shakuyaku was at God Valley. But now we know she was. And I think there's a couple more characters, a part of the Rocks Pirates, who we kind of felt that same way about too. But yeah, like overall, I think we totally could get these guys at God Valley, and we just never knew this entire time. I guess another example would be like the God Knights, right? We first heard about God Valley around chapter 890, but we didn't hear about the God Knights. We didn't hear about the God Knights until chapter, I think it was like 1030 or 40. It was after Wano. That is when they first mentioned the God Knights. So yeah, like we can keep on adding more players to this island. I don't think that's a bad idea. Will it actually happen? That's up in the air, right? But yeah, nothing's impossible. Not to the full flashback, but I wager to guess we will see Garp fighting tooth and nail to keep the Celestial Dragon slaves in chains. Get back there, son! You there! You're a part of the rabbit hunting tournament, aren't you? Get back in the arena, bozo. Garlic needs to kill you. I love that narrative. Hey, I don't think Garp's like that. Garp doesn't like the Celestial Dragons, but I love playing with, silly stuff like this. So yeah. Garp fighting tooth and nail to keep Celestial Dragon slaves in chains. If we're saying Garp's doing it, technically Roger did it too. From Sengoku's perspective, Garp and Roger protected the Celestial Dragons. So Roger's right there too, brother. Roger's right there too. I think we're closer to the end of the story than a lot of people think. Sure, there are several more years, but in Elbaf alone, we've gotten Emu actually fighting, several chapters about Rocks, despite everyone saying we're only going to get Loki and Harold's perspective, Shamrock reveal, ... for those saying delaying the God Valley flashback for later. I think this is later. I'm also betting Harold was at God Valley. Yeah, when it comes to how many years we have left with One Piece, that's always tough. You can never take what Oda says seriously. Even Oda said that himself in the last prediction. I think Oda said that there's like 4 years left, and then he said, "Hey guys, I'm really bad with this, so don't believe me." But if I had to put a number, I'd say we have 6 years left. But then again, I don't know. There's just so much, right? Like, I do think the Void Century flashback, unironically, would be an entire year of the story. Final War, an entire year. So, who knows? I think we gonna get the scene of everybody picking up and going to God Valley, then it ends. We won't see the fight events until we get another flashback. That could be it. And, my personal opinion on this when it comes to fights, I would love to see big fights. I would love to see fights start and finish. Shiki versus a God Knight. All the way through, beginning and end. Not a clash, beginning to end. Whitebeard fighting Garling, beginning to end. Roger, Garp, Rocks, if they had like a free-for-all, beginning to end. But I don't think we'll ever get that. I'm gonna be honest. I feel like if Oda really spent, like, you know, time here showing all these fights fully fleshed out, dude, go back to this, right? Go back to this. Add 2 more years at that point. I'm a fight junkie, you know. I love my fighting mangas. I don't think One Piece does it that often anymore. I think Oda is trying to pick up that pace. Sad to say, sad to say. I would love to be proven wrong, though. Hey, I would love to be proven wrong. Last comment. They say we probably start reeling it back a little and get the build up to everyone setting sail to God Valley, but only get to see Harold-Elbaf and probably the Kuja's reaction to what happened. Then, maybe a short summary of events that followed after God Valley up to Harold's demise. Now, it's as good as a time as ever, but Oda will cut something important for later, I'm guessing, yeah. It looks like everybody's kind of on the same boat. That is why right here the poll is very split. We got 7,000 votes, 47% say yes, we're seeing it all, 44% say no, and only 9% saying we're never going to get it. So yeah, I think that right there speaks volumes about everything. But yes, that is it for today's poll video, you guys. Let me know what you thought about all this down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next poll video. Well, I guess it's Tuesday. Yeah, it's Tuesday. I'll see you guys in the chapter review instead. Until then, you guys take care and stay safe, brother.